Hey guys, tonight we're going to drift far back in time into a place where trade ships carried not just spices and silk, but an idea of power that would change entire worlds. We're going into the story of the East India Company, a name written in history books, but written even deeper into the soil of lands it ruled, a story of quiet cruelty and restless seas, a story of ledgers and muskets, of coins and hunger, and silence held too long. If you're enjoying this story, you're welcome to like the video, or subscribe to hear more like it. And if you're listening in the quiet of night, I'd love to know where you're joining from. It's a comforting thought. How many of us are drifting through history together? It's dawn over Bengal, somewhere in the hush before the sun edges over the horizon. The Ganges breathes a thin layer of mist across the water. The reeds are heavy with dew. Fishermen crouch on small wooden boats. Still as herons, the river glows like polished metal, shifting from pewter to soft gold. On the riverbanks, fields of rice stand waiting. Stalks nod in the breeze. From far away, the faint scent of wet earth rises, a smell that has lived here longer than any empire. A man steps from the water onto the mud. His cloth is wrapped tight around his waist. He carries a net, wet and heavy, slung across one shoulder. He looks toward the east, searching for the sun, for the warmth that means today there will be work, perhaps food, perhaps a few coins to carry home. He doesn't yet know that new rulers have come to claim his rice, his silk, his labor. He doesn't know about the ledgers being written in Calcutta, or the sails that billow white with ambition off the coast. He only knows the river. The British East India Company arrived first as traders. They came in ships smelling of salt and tar, loaded with wool and metal goods. They built small factories, little trading posts along the river. They smiled, they bargained, they showed off coins stamped with a strange king's face. At first, the company was nothing more than merchants among merchants. In the heat of crowded bazaars, voices rose around them in Hindi, Bengali, Persian, Portuguese, Dutch. The scent of turmeric and spices drifted through air that shimmered with heat. Parrots screamed from cage bars. Hawkers called out prices. The company men stood sweating in their wool coats, clutching paper and ledgers, trying to count profit while mosquitoes whined in their ears. But over years so long they felt like forever, the merchants changed. The ledgers grew heavier. The coins stacked higher. Ships arrived not only with cloth, but with guns and men to hold them. In the still darkness of the night, Bengal began to shift. You imagine a village at midnight, bamboo huts clustered together, lamps flicker behind thin cloth windows, children sleep curled against their mothers. Outside, stars scatter across a black sky so deep it seems to swallow sound. In the company SEP's factories, the same night glows with a different kind of light. Oil lamps hissing, voices hushed over parchment. English script loops across the page, line after line. Revenue, quantity, taxation, numbers written beside words no villager would ever read. Under the company, taxes rose. It wasn't simply tax for the Nawabs anymore. The British wanted more. Always more. To feed the ships, to send riches home to London. Pepper, indigo, silk, saltpetre for gunpowder. A man in Calcutta sits hunched over a ledger. He dips his quill into ink that glows brown-red in lamplight. His fingers are stained. His eyes are red from lack of sleep. He writes, "This village yields 12,000 maunds of rice. Their tax increases by 1/3 next season." Outside his window, rain begins to fall. Somewhere in a village, that rain trickles through a cracked thatch roof. A woman pulls a cloth tighter over her child. She listens to the water dripping beside the bed. She wonders how many baskets of rice they will have to give next season. and how many they will keep for themselves. It's not a story of kings and wars, not yet. It's a story of silence, of small moments. A man carrying baskets heavier than his shoulders can bear. A woman counting grains before placing them in a child's bowl. The company learns quickly. If a man cannot pay in rice, take silk. If he cannot pay in silk, take land. If he has no land left, take his future. The traders become rulers. Their ledgers become laws. Their guards stand in doorways. Their silver coins shine in torchlight. People begin to disappear. Into jails. Into ships. Into silence. The man from the river now carries baskets of indigo leaves. His hands are stained blue, indigo dye for British markets, a color so deep it stains the skin for days. He coughs. His chest rattles with the dust from dried leaves ground fine. He doesn't know that ships in London will auction this dye for fortunes. He only knows that each day his back bends lower, and there is less rice in the pot. Bengal begins to starve, not from drought alone, not from flood, but from policy, from trade demands, from the company's hunger for revenue, calculated to the last grain. A company man rides through a village. His horse kicks up dust. Behind him, 2 Indian sepoys walk, muskets slung over shoulders. The villagers bow as he passes. Some press their foreheads to the ground. Some stare blankly at the road. In his ledger, the company man writes, "Compliance noted. Collect 200 rupees from village for arrears. Send reminder of company authority." The river keeps flowing. Boats drift by, but silence grows heavier. No rebellion yet. Only a hush, a waiting. A breath held in countless chests. And far away in London, merchants sit in coffee houses, discussing shares in the East India Company. They sip cups, steaming with coffee. They joke about distant kings. They laugh about the price of silk. They do not speak of villages disappearing into famine. You close your eyes and see the flicker of the oil lamps. You hear the rustle of silk, carried through narrow alleys. You smell the heavy perfume of indigo. You feel the weight of ledgers resting on weary wooden desks. And somewhere, under the stars, a child stirs in sleep, hungry, dreaming of rice. The river keeps moving. It doesn't know about taxes or ledgers. It doesn't know the name company. It only knows to flow, to rise, to fall, to carry mud and fish and bits of leaf. It glides past villages where people are beginning to weigh their words more carefully, past men whose shoulders ache from carrying tribute, past women whose eyes dart sideways when someone mentions the white men in red coats. You watch it in your mind. Soft ripples under gray dawn light. A fisherman's pole balanced carefully across the bow of a boat, a bird diving, wings cutting a thin line through the air. Above it all, Calcutta grows, not all at once, slowly, like mold, like roots pushing between bricks. When the British first came, they built a small fort of wood and mud. It stood above the riverbank, looking out over endless green plains. Then stone walls replaced wood. Cannons pointed outward, just in case. Warehouses rose beside the river, packed with silk, pepper, muslin, saltpeter. Ships floated near the docks, tall masts etched against the sky. Calcutta became a city of 2 faces. On one side, narrow alleys choked with bullock carts and vendors, shouting prices over each other. Palm trees swaying overhead. The smell of boiling sugar and fish guts. Women carrying baskets high on their heads, jingling with anklets as they stepped carefully over puddles. On the other side, the white town. Wide streets, tall buildings, balconies edged in iron, glass windows catching sunlight, men in wigs and breeches, sweating in heavy cloth meant for English weather, not Bengal heat. gardens carefully tended with roses that wilted under the sun. Inside the white town, the company's clerks worked day and night, their pens scratched across paper, tallying taxes, losses, gains. They measured India in numbers. How many mawns of rice? How many bales of silk? How many rupees left unpaid? From these numbers, orders were written, soldiers dispatched, taxes raised higher, fields ordered to grow indigo instead of rice. And far away in London, the directors of the East India Company opened reports stamped in red wax. They traced profits with pale fingers. They nodded approval. But in Bengal, the villagers began to disappear. The year is 1769. It's been raining too much. The river swells high, then drops away, leaving fields half drowned and half dry. People try to plant rice again. Some seeds sprout, some rot. The company sends tax collectors anyway. A company officer rides into a village. His horse's hooves splash mud onto the huts. He wears a white linen suit, sweat darkening the cloth beneath his arms. Behind him come sepoys, their muskets glinting in the watery light. Villagers gather around the officer. A few children peek from behind a wall. The officer unfolds a piece of paper. He reads, "All subjects under company protection shall render taxes in full as assessed by the collector, with no delay or reduction." He rolls up the paper, tucks it into his belt, and waits. No one moves at first. Then an old man steps forward. His dhoti is stained brown with earth. His eyes look like small pools, dark and deep. He speaks softly. "Sahib, the crops failed. There is no rice left. The river took it. We have no grain. How shall we pay?" The officer's lips tighten. He motions to one of the sepoys, who steps forward and swings the butt of his musket against the old man's shoulder. The crack echoes in the hush. The old man drops to his knees, clutching his arm. Dust rises around him like smoke. The officer speaks again. "Pay in rupees, or silk, or indigo." The company does not wait. He turns his horse and rides away. The sepoys follow. Behind them, the villagers stand in silence. A woman kneels beside the old man. She touches his shoulder gently, feeling the bruise swelling under his skin. The man does not cry. He simply stares at the ground. A child begins to wail, but the mother presses a hand over the child's mouth, afraid of who might hear. Night falls over the village like a cloth dropped from the sky. People gather in the shadows. They speak in whispers. Some say they should flee into the forest. Some say they should hide their rice deeper under the floorboards. Some say nothing, just look toward the place where the officer disappeared. In the company SIP's ledger, a new line is written: Village X. Tax, unpaid, to be collected with assistance if necessary. And still the river flows on. The famine begins. Not sudden, not like a storm, slow, like rot, spreading through wood. The crops fail once, then again. Prices rise. The company refuses to lower the tax. Soldiers come, gathering baskets of grain that should have fed villages. In some places, people eat grass. In others, leaves boiled soft enough to swallow. Children's bellies swell. Eyes become too large for thin faces. A British clerk writes home to his mother in England. The air smells of sickness. The streets are lined with figures who do not move. Some clutch coins in their fists even as they die, hoping for one last handful of rice. But the ships keep sailing. The East India Company sends shiploads of rice and grain to England. The company's profit must not stop. The famine becomes only a line on a ledger, written in smaller script than the trade receipts. You see it all as if standing beside a dusty road, a line of villagers stumbling forward, carrying bundles of dried grass. A woman collapses. No one has strength left to lift her. Children's feet drag grooves in the dust. And in Calcutta, a company ball takes place. Inside the grand hall, chandeliers drip with candles. Women wear silk gowns dyed with indigo from the villages. Men bow stiffly in tailored coats. A small orchestra plays violin and harpsichord. Crystal glasses clink. Laughter bursts like fireworks. Outside the hall, a servant waits in the shadows. He glances through the door, catching glimpses of silver trays laden with roast meat, sweet puddings, and spiced wines. He swallows hard, tasting only dust in his mouth. The music swells higher. But outside, the night air carries another sound, the soft, ragged breathing of people sleeping in the streets, dreaming of food they can no longer name. Somewhere in the dark, a mother presses her child against her ribs, counting heartbeats, whispering small songs to keep the child awake, because in sleep, sometimes, they do not wake again. And still the company writes, profits this quarter remain strong. Further cultivation of cash crops recommended. You lie back now, imagining the ceiling of the grand ballroom, the chandeliers spinning slowly, the shine of silk dresses, the perfume, and the smell of hunger drifting unseen through the hall, as thin as a thread of smoke. In the silence, the East India Company grows richer, and Bengal grows emptier. The sun returns. When the rains stop and skies clear, Bengal wakes beneath a glaring heat. The river sinks lower, revealing mudflats where crabs scuttle sideways, leaving tiny tracks. The air grows thick again, buzzing with flies, and yet something is missing. Voices. Laughter. The sound of children running through fields. The famine has left hollow places where people used to be. At the edges of villages, there are houses with doors swinging open, curtains fluttering in the breeze, mats rolled up as if the family might return any moment. But they do not. Dust gathers in corners. A clay bowl lies overturned on the floor, dry as stone. Along the roads, travelers pass fewer and fewer neighbors. Where once a man would pause to trade news, now he lowers his eyes, afraid of what news might bring. Inside one hut, a woman sits weaving a basket. Her fingers move automatically, though her eyes stare blankly into space. Her hair is dull and matted. The child who once played beside her is gone. The basket grows larger under her hands, but there's nothing to carry in it. Meanwhile, in Calcutta, the British still write letters. A clerk sits at a table littered with ledgers, candles burned to nubs, and ink pots crusted black around their rims. He scratches his pen across the page. The famine is regrettable, but necessary losses are acceptable in the pursuit of greater revenue streams. The demand for indigo remains strong. We advise continuation of cash crop policies. Outside his window, carts roll past, carrying bales of silk. The air smells sweet from drying dye vats. He doesn't open the window wide enough to smell the bodies on the streets. He seps paid to count profit, not corpses. Far upriver, the company men have begun speaking more boldly. Where once they whispered their plans in meeting rooms, now they declare openly, this country cannot be trusted to govern itself. These people need guidance, discipline. They believe it, or pretend to. Because behind every speech about civilization, there's a ledger waiting to be filled, and every inked line carries another family closer to ruin. A company official rides through a village again, looking for taxes unpaid. This time he wears medals pinned to his chest, symbols of service, loyalty, empire. The sun flashes off brass buttons. His boots glisten black. Behind him, sepoys march in perfect step. Their eyes flicker left and right, watching the huts, the narrow lanes, the movement behind woven screens. A dog barks, a child cries out, and is hushed. The official dismounts. He calls out in a loud voice, reading from a paper, under the company SEP's protection. All citizens shall render their due tribute. Failure will be met with appropriate consequence. No one answers. An old man steps forward. His back is bent from years of labor. He holds out a handful of coins. It is not enough. The official shakes his head. Two sepoys move forward and begin searching the huts. They overturn baskets. They dig into earthen floors, looking for hidden grain. When they find nothing, they drag the old man away. His feet leave two faint lines in the dust. The village watches, silent. In Calcutta, another ball takes place. The ballroom glitters with chandeliers. English ladies fan themselves and gossip about the latest shipments of silk. Gentlemen speak of investments. Some mention the famine only as an inconvenience, a market correction in the price of grain. Outside, in the narrow alleys, a child sits alone, leaning against a brick wall. Flies crawl across her arms. Her eyes are half closed. She barely notices the noise of the ball, and the river keeps flowing. Even now, it carries rumors, whispers that travel faster than any boat. People begin to speak of resistance, not loudly, not in crowds, but in the quiet of night. By the dying fire, voices murmur, "This cannot go on. We are dying for their profit. We should fight." It is dangerous talk. The company listens for such words. It has ears everywhere. In the market stalls, in the ranks of sepoys, in the temples. Yet once spoken, words cannot be unspoken. A young man named Arjun stands in the shadows of a mango grove. He speaks softly to three others. His clothes are simple, his shoulders are thin, but his eyes glow with something new, a fierce light. He says, "The company has taken our food, our fields, our families. What else is left for them to take?" One man whispers back, "But they have guns." Arjun clenches his fist. Guns cannot grow rice, and even soldiers must eat. In another village, a priest weaves old prayers into new warnings, standing before the idol. He chants, "The river will swallow the unjust. The earth will bury the greedy. Those who bring famine shall be driven away." People listen, eyes wide. Some nod, some weep, some cross themselves in fear. Yet rebellion remains only smoke, not flame. The company still holds the muskets, still holds the silver coins, still writes the laws. In London, merchants smile over their ledgers. They have heard there is famine in Bengal, but the dividends remain high. Shares of East India Company's stock rise in the coffee houses. Gentlemen sip chocolate and speak of conquest. None of them have seen a man die with grass in his mouth, but you have. In your mind, you've stood beside him. You've watched the way his body grows still, how the dust gathers on his eyelashes, how the sun seems to burn too bright above such silence. Outside Calcutta, the roads crack under the sun's weight. Villagers travel in ragged lines, carrying what they can: a clay pot, a child, a small bundle wrapped in cloth. They pass the company soldiers who watch from shaded trees. A woman collapses. Her face presses into the dirt. The bundle slides from her back. A child tied there, too small, too quiet. No one has strength left to help. In the company SEP's records, the famine becomes losses among native population, revenue lower, silk shipments proceeding as normal. Inside the city walls, the British sip cool drinks and complain about the smell wafting from the riverbanks. Servants spread wet cloths over windows to keep out the heat. Fan blades creak overhead. No one mentions that the river itself is carrying bodies downstream. The Ganges flows past all of it. Past the empty huts, past the overgrown paths, past the factories where indigo stains the stones dark blue. The water glimmers beneath the sun. birds wheel overhead. Life and death float side by side on its surface. And even in this silence, history continues to write itself, one stroke at a time. When the rains return, they do not come gently. They roar down from a black sky, hammering the parched ground. At first, people lift their faces in relief. The cracked earth drinks greedily. Dust becomes mud. Wells fill. But in the huts, water seeps through roofs patched too many times. Mats rot where they lie. A man stands in the doorway, watching the sheets of rain. His eyes are sunken. His ribs press against his skin. Once, he harvested rice here. Now the field is an empty patch, planted with indigo because the company demanded it. The blue dye fetched better prices overseas. When the rain slows, the world smells of wet decay. The road is littered with branches and broken baskets. A dead ox lies in the ditch, ribs straining against hide. And still, the tax collectors come. They ride under umbrellas, carried by servants. Their boots leave deep prints in the mud. They look around, noting the collapsed roofs and gaunt figures, then unroll their ledgers. The same words echo again and again. Taxes unpaid, collections overdue, enforcement required. The villagers gather without speaking. Their feet squelch in the mud. A child coughs in the quiet. A woman clutches the thin wrist of her son, afraid he will be noticed. The collector calls out. The company SEP's due is not suspended by rain or famine. No one answers. No one dares. A young man in the crowd grips a stick in his hand, hidden behind his leg. His knuckles are white. For a moment he imagines swinging it. The thought rises like a fever, quick, bright, dangerous, but he feels his father's hand on his shoulder, heavy with warning. The moment passes. The collector takes his notes. He turns his horse. Mud splashes against the villagers as he leaves. Silence returns. A deeper silence than before. Somewhere in the fields, the first insects begin to chirp again. Life, stubborn, trying to start over. In Calcutta, the company writes new policies. They call them reforms. More inspections, stricter quotas, contracts rewritten in legal English no one here can read. Inside the factories, indigo is packed into crates. The dye seeps into the wood, staining it blue as bruises. Coolies lift the crates onto carts, straining under the weight. Their hands are permanently tinted with indigo that will not wash off. At night, the workers soak rags in river water and press them to their skin, trying to soothe the burns. Children sit by the door, staring at their father's blue hands. In the dark, it looks almost beautiful. In the daylight, it is only a mark of bondage. A company officer sits by a lamp, pen scratching. He does not wonder how the dye is made. He only calculates how many pounds will ship to London. Projected yield this quarter, 320 bales. Value 14,000 rupees. He dots the ink and sets the pen aside. In the village, the young man who nearly raised the stick begins to plan, not alone, quietly. In darkness, he whispers to his cousin, to a neighbor, to a man from the next settlement, if we strike a blow, perhaps they will understand we are not animals. His cousin says nothing at first. Then he nods once, a small sound of agreement that feels like the first spark in a cold room. But they know what they risk. The company is a wall of guns and ledgers. Behind every sepoy stands another. Behind every tax is a threat. Behind every threat is the power of London itself. Wealth so vast, it seems impossible to resist. Yet hunger makes men bold. In the white town, candles glow behind glass. Dinner parties continue. Officers complain of the humidity and the smell. One remarks that perhaps the famines are a natural consequence of poor local management. He does not see the irony in saying this while cutting roast meat onto fine porcelain. The Ganges flows past it all. At dawn, boats slip downriver with crates of dye and rice. The water glimmers silver under the rising sun. From the banks, women watch the boats slide away, carrying the food their families will never eat. Somewhere upriver, a group of men dig a shallow pit. They place a body inside, small, wrapped in cloth. The mother does not weep. She has no tears left. Her hands rest on her knees. When the pit is filled, she stands slowly and walks back toward the village. No one speaks her name, but everyone knows her story. It is the same story now, over and over. Tax, indigo, hunger, death. In the night, the young man and his companions meet under a neem tree. They share the smallest meal, a few dried lentils, a scrap of bread. By firelight, they draw lines in the dust, marks for each family that has left or died. The lines fill the space between them. One man says, "They cannot take more. There is nothing left." But everyone knows the company will try. When the wind changes, word begins to spread further. In other districts, more villagers are refusing to plant indigo. Some have left fields empty. Some have hidden what rice they could salvage. Company officials call this defiance. They send soldiers to enforce the contracts. It is easier to break a man than to replace him. In one village, the sepoys arrive at dawn. Their boots stamp the mud flat. Muskets gleam. A company officer reads the charges. When no one steps forward, he orders the village headman bound. The old man says nothing. As his wrists are tied behind his back, he only looks at his neighbors, as if memorizing each face. Behind the soldiers, an ox cart waits to carry away any grain found. By evening, the village is emptied of food. The officer signs a document. The sepoys march away. Night comes down, soft and heavy. Children cry themselves to sleep. A woman sits alone in the dirt, hands empty in her lap. But under it all, something has shifted. Where fear once was, anger grows. The river slides past the village, indifferent. But even the river cannot wash away what has begun. In Calcutta, the company's directors read reports with mild interest. They see the words unrest and defiance, but do not feel their weight. They see only columns of figures: revenue, stable; production, adequate; losses, acceptable. The ledgers close. The lamps are extinguished. The clerks go to sleep in their quiet houses, unaware that across the river, men are sharpening blades. Not many blades, only a few, enough to make a point, enough to remind the company that no empire can rule forever. In the darkness, the neem tree stands silent, its leaves whispering above the heads of those gathered. The young man lifts his face to the branches. He breathes slowly, as if to steady himself. "Tomorrow," he says. His voice is low, but it carries. And in that moment, for the first time in many seasons, the hush that has smothered the land begins to lift. Night fades into a pale gray dawn. Bird song returns hesitantly, as if testing the air. Thin clouds scatter across the sky. The river lies smooth as glass, carrying drifting bits of grass and the silent memory of things unseen. The young man who whispered under the neem tree rises early. His eyes are shadowed from sleeplessness. He walks past silent huts, past the village well where a single rope swings in the breeze, its bucket resting on cracked stone. Today feels different, not because the company is gone. It still stands everywhere in the creak of carts carrying indigo leaves, in the distant echo of soldiers marching the roads, but because something invisible has broken open. In the hut beside his, an old woman lights a clay lamp. The flame trembles. She blows gently until it steadies. then sets it in the doorway as she always does. A small gesture of hope against the darkness. Further down the road, a man steps into the field carrying a sickle. But he does not go to the indigo patch. He turns toward a strip of earth, hidden behind banana trees, where rice has begun to grow secretly. From far off comes the faint cry of a conch shell, a ritual sound. But today it feels like a signal. At the company factory, a clerk wipes sweat from his brow. He dips his pen into the ink pot again and again, filling ledgers with neat lines. He writes, "Indigo production slightly reduced. Increased oversight recommended." He does not know that less indigo means more rice. He does not know that people have begun to say no. The young man reaches the edge of the village, where the dirt road leads east toward the company's main warehouse. His cousin waits there, shifting from foot to foot, eyes darting. They speak in low voices. They will come soon to check the fields, his cousin says. Then let them come, the young man replies. They speak of hiding rice under woven mats, of breaking tools in secret, of refusing to plant blue leaves ever again. A tiny rebellion, but rebellion nonetheless. By mid-morning, the sun burns high. The villagers gather in small groups. Some stand watch near the road. Others slip quietly into hidden patches of green, watering shoots of rice and millet. In the heat, the smell of wet soil rises, sharp and clean. It smells like possibility, but possibility has a cost. At midday, the company official arrives on horseback. His uniform is bright under the sun, metals gleaming like bits of brass fire. He is flanked by sepoys, muskets held loosely but ready. Dust churns around the hooves of the horses. He dismounts and calls for the village headman. The company requires inspection of all fields. Show us the indigo. No one moves. The headman, thin as a reed, steps forward. His voice is steady, though his hands tremble. Sahib, there is no indigo left. The rains washed it away. The official Sep's eyes narrow. Show me. They walk toward the fields. The villagers follow in silence. Birds scatter from the trees as they approach. When they reach the edge of the indigo patch, only dry stalks remain, brown and broken. The official scowls. This is sabotage. He turns on the villagers. The company Sep's orders are law. You will plant again. You will pay what you owe. Behind him, the sepoys shift their feet. One glances at the young man, recognition passing between them. For a moment, something flickers in the sepoy's eyes. Pity, perhaps, or warning. But duty holds stronger than pity. The official orders the soldiers to search the village. Huts are overturned. Earthen floors dug up with bayonets. Grain baskets scattered and emptied. A woman cries out as they break open a hidden jar of rice, spilling pale grains into the dirt. She falls to her knees, trying to scoop them back. A soldier pulls her away roughly. The young man steps forward. His cousin grabs his arm, hissing, "No, not yet." He stops, shaking with rage. His breath comes in short bursts. The soldiers leave with sacks of rice, loaded onto carts. The official mounts his horse again, glaring down at the villagers. "This is the price of disobedience," he says. "Remember it." He rides away. The dust settles behind him like a veil. Silence returns. The villagers stand amid broken baskets, spilled grain shining like pale stars against the dark soil. Slowly, the young man kneels beside the woman. He helps her gather rice grain by grain. His cousin joins him. One by one, others kneel too. No words are spoken, only the soft rustle of hands brushing the earth. That night, the neem tree sees them gather again. The lamp burns low, casting long shadows. Faces are drawn, but eyes burn bright. The young man speaks. They will not leave us anything, not even the grain in our bowls. We must fight. An old man answers, fight them with what? They have guns. The young man closes his eyes, then opens them again. Then we fight with fire, with blades, with silence when they question us. We fight by planting rice instead of indigo, by hiding grain, by refusing to bow. A woman speaks next. Her voice is quiet but firm. And if they come again, he answers. Then we show them that we are still here, that we are not afraid to die for our land. In the shadows, a child listens, eyes wide. He does not fully understand, but the words will stay with him. They will echo in his dreams. They will become part of the soil. Far away in Calcutta, the company's clerks do not know about this gathering. They sleep under mosquito nets, dreaming of rising profits. They write new orders by daylight, never imagining the tide that is building in places they call distant and insignificant. In London, company directors sip tea, oblivious to the names of the villages from which their wealth flows. To them, Bengal is a line in an account book, a figure in pounds and shillings. But on the riverbank, the young man looks out over the moonlit water. He touches the handle of a small knife tucked into his waistband. Tomorrow, he knows, the company will come again. And tomorrow, he intends to answer. Morning comes quietly. A pale light slides over Bengal, brushing the tops of palm trees, glinting off the gentle ripples of the river. Birds sing again, a cautious chorus, rising and falling like a tide. The air smells of damp earth, faintly sweet, as if the land itself is trying to heal. But healing does not come so easily. The village still bears the scars of the company's last visit. Baskets lie broken in the dirt, their woven ribs jutting like bones. Grain has been swept away by wind and ants. The villagers move slowly, as if afraid to disturb the silence. Women sweep the ground around their huts, pushing dust into neat piles. Men walk to the fields, glancing behind them with each step. Yet there is something new beneath the weariness, a hardness, a quiet promise that they will not bow forever. In Calcutta, the company's men continue their rituals. They dress in fine cotton and linen. They button crisp coats, powder their hair, and step into offices where the day's heat presses against high windows. The river glimmers beyond the docks, ships rocking gently at anchor. Inside, quill pens scratch across ledgers. Report. Certain districts show increasing resistance to company policy. A clerk writes, recommend firmer measures. Possible deployment of additional sepoy forces. Another note, revenue drop. Due to crop failures and non-cooperation. Indigo planting behind schedule. Outside, carts rattle over cobbled streets, carrying barrels of saltpetre, bales of silk, crates of pepper. Dock workers call out to one another, sweat darkening the cloth of their turbans. The smell of spice mingles with the sharper scent of tar and sea brine. But none of this reaches the young man in the village. He wakes before dawn, slipping out into the fields, while the sky is still gray. His cousin joins him, moving quickly, careful not to leave footprints in the wet grass. Together they kneel among the rice plants, checking the leaves for damage, clearing weeds by hand. The young man whispers, they will come again. We must be ready. His cousin glances around. You mean to fight? The young man answers, not only with blades, with silence, with secrets, with rice hidden where they cannot find it. Farther down the road, the woman whose rice was scattered by the soldiers sits outside her hut, mending a torn cloth. Her fingers move quickly, weaving threads back together, but her eyes watch the road. She is waiting for news, for the company, for something to change. By midday, word spreads, the company is returning. The official arrives at the village edge, his uniform brighter than ever, gold trim shining in the sun. Behind him march sepoys in perfect formation, muskets gleaming, dust billows around their boots. Children run to hide, women retreat into doorways, pulling scarves over their faces. The men stand silently, waiting. The official dismounts, voice sharp. The company demands its due. You will show your fields. You will pay your taxes. The young man steps forward. There is nothing left to pay. The official sep's eyes narrow. Then you will plant indigo. You will work the company sip's fields. The young man does not lower his gaze. No. We will plant rice. We will feed our children first. A hush falls. Even the wind seems to pause. The official lifts his hand. Two sepoys step forward, raising the butts of their muskets. The young man stands tall, jaw clenched, breath sharp. But before the soldiers can strike, an old voice calls out, "Stop." It is the village headman. His face is lined with age, his back bent, but his voice cuts through the silence. Enough blood has fallen here. Take me instead. The official considers, lips pressed tight. Then he gestures sharply. The sepoys grab the old man and drag him toward the road. His feet drag through dust. The villagers stand frozen. The young man clenches his fists so tightly, his nails cut into his palms. Blood trickles down his fingers. The official mounts his horse and rides away, leaving the village empty and echoing. That night, the village gathers in silence beneath the neem tree. A single lantern flickers, sending gold ripples across tired faces. The young man speaks. They take the old, the weak, thinking we will be afraid. But we are more than one man. We are many. A woman nods, her eyes bright despite exhaustion. Let them see we are not afraid. The young man looks around the circle. Tomorrow, we begin. In the hours before dawn, the villagers move like shadows, quiet feet slipping through narrow paths, soft voices in the dark. They hide rice beneath floorboards, wrap grain in cloths and bury it among tree roots. They scatter indigo plants, uprooting the green stalks and tossing them into the river. Small, silent rebellions. In the company offices, the clerks will write later reports of missing crops, villagers uncooperative, discipline required. But discipline will not stop the river, because the river keeps flowing. It carries secrets, whispers, hopes, and on its banks the people breathe as one, preparing for the day when whispers become voices too loud to silence. The sun rises over Bengal like a coin lifted slowly from dark water. Light spreads across the fields, turning mist into shimmering gold. Birds wheel overhead, their cries cutting through silence left by too many empty huts. The river glitters, carrying flecks of pale foam, drifting past the places where fishermen once crowded the banks. But this dawn carries a weight, a hush that feels less like peace and more like the moment before rain strikes the dust. The village wakes early. Women carry water pots from the well. Men sharpen blades meant for farming but now held a little too tightly. Children peer from doorways, sensing that grown-ups speak in lower voices, eyes flicking left and right. Among them stands the young man. His cousin walks beside him, speaking softly. You know they will come again. The young man nods. Let them come. We are ready. Yet readiness does not ease fear. Further down the road, the company official rides out from Calcutta once more. His horse's hooves kick up dust in rhythmic thuds. His uniform is newly pressed, brass buttons shining in the sun. Behind him march the sepoys, muskets on shoulders, eyes trained straight ahead. He carries a new order in his breast pocket, a piece of paper that reads, "Resistance increasing, demonstration of company authority advised." By the river, a woman kneels in the mud, washing a scrap of cloth. She looks up as the dust cloud appears in the distance. Her hand still in the water, she gathers her cloth and flees before the soldiers arrive. In the village, word comes quick as breath. The company is coming. People scatter. Some slip into the forest. Some gather tools, unsure if they should hide them or hold them as weapons. The old priest rings the temple bells slowly, each tone heavy as stone. The young man stands in the center of the path. He waits. When the company official arrives, he dismounts and steps forward, voice loud enough for all to hear. This village owes tribute. You have failed to provide indigo crops. You have hidden grain. This is rebellion. The young man speaks calmly. We will plant rice. We will feed ourselves first. You will take no more from us. The official's face goes pale, then red. He gestures sharply. 2 sepoys step forward, raising their muskets. But something shifts. Behind the young man, villagers step out of doorways. One carries a sickle. Another grips a wooden staff. Women stand beside men. Children too, fists clenched small but sure. The official falters. His voice rises. Disperse. Go back to your huts. No one moves. The young man takes 1 step closer. Go back to your city. Leave us our land. A sepoy raises his musket higher. His eyes flicker uncertainly between his officer and the villagers. Then, for the first time, the sepoy lowers his weapon. Silence grips the road. A single crow calls overhead. The official stares at the sepoy, fury twisting his features. You will obey me. The sepoy does not lift his musket again. The officer whirls, shouting to the rest. Arrest them all. But the other sepoys hesitate. Some shift backward, their feet scraping dust. One shakes his head slightly, and in that small pause, the young man turns and raises his arm. He calls out, "Go home. There is nothing here for the company." And with that, the villagers turn and walk away. They vanish into huts, into fields, into the trees. The official stands alone, red coat, bright as blood in the sun. Behind him, the sepoys stare at the ground. He wheels around, mounts his horse, and rides away, leaving dust curling in the air. In the village, people emerge again, slowly, carefully, eyes wide, as if not quite believing what they've seen. The young man breathes out, chest heaving. His cousin grips his shoulder. You stood against them. The young man nods, voice rough. So did we all. That night, the village gathers beneath the neem tree. Firelight flickers over faces lined with exhaustion and something else, pride. The woman whose rice was taken stands and speaks. They will come again. But now we know they bleed the same as we do. They fear. They doubt. An old man murmurs, "The sepoys are our brothers. They are starving too. They plant rice when they can. The company uses them, but they are not all loyal." The young man answers, "Then we must speak to them. Tell them we are one people." A ripple of agreement moves through the crowd, and so a new plan begins to grow. Not of weapons alone, but of words, of secret meetings, of quiet alliances. The company will not see it coming. In Calcutta, officers pace long corridors, under painted ceilings. One writes a letter. Discontent is spreading. Even the sepoys hesitate. We may face an open revolt if this continues. But another officer scoffs. These people are weak. They can be crushed. Yet they do not see the village under starlight. They do not hear the wind moving through rice stalks, carrying whispers of freedom. They do not feel the shift in the soil where new seeds lie hidden. Because in the dark, under the soft hush of insects singing, the villagers are learning that even small hands can hold power, that silence is not the same as surrender, and that one day, The river will carry the company's banners away, leaving only the sky, and the earth, and the people who call it home. The dawn comes softly. A pale pink glow edges the horizon, brushing the tops of trees, glancing off river water that moves like silk. Mist curls low across the ground. The cries of birds pierce the quiet, as if testing whether the world is safe to wake again. In the village, the young man rises early. He steps out into the cool air, bare feet, sinking into soft earth still damp with dew. He looks toward the fields where rice stands taller now, slender blades trembling in the breeze. Each green stalk is precious, each grain a promise that life will continue. Behind him, a child laughs, just once, quick and shy. The sound ripples outward, carrying hope. But beneath the quiet tension coils like a snake. The company has not forgotten. In Calcutta, officers gather in a room heavy with heat and the smell of paper and sweat. Windows stand open to the humid breeze. Outside, the river glitters under the sun, boats drifting like dark leaves. One officer reads aloud. Reports continue of villages refusing to plant indigo. Sepoys in some areas, reluctant to enforce collection. Another officer snorts. Then we replace them. Hang a few rebels in the square, the rest will fall in line. But even he hesitates, pressing fingers to his temple. There is worry in his eyes. The young man returns to his hut and finds his cousin waiting. The cousin speaks quickly. I have heard news. In another district, sepoys refused to fire on villagers. They said they would not kill their own people. The young man's eyes widen. Did the company punish them? His cousin nods. Some were jailed. Some were sent far away. But the talk spreads. People whisper of soldiers who might stand with us. The young man sits down, running a hand through his hair. The sun creeps higher, heating the walls of the hut. Outside, flies buzz lazily, but inside, minds spin like wheels. Far down the road, in another village, a group of sepoys gather in secret. They squat on their haunches beneath the shade of a peepal tree. Their muskets lean against the trunk. One man speaks, voice low. We are ordered to take grain from starving people, to beat them when they cannot pay. How can this be right? Another sepoy answers, my brother died last month. No rice in the house. My mother weeps each night. Yet the sahibs tell me to punish my own village. A third sepoy clenches his fists. They send our people to die in wars far away. And for what? The company grows rich. We grow hungry. They fall silent as footsteps approach. A boy runs past, carrying a bundle of sticks. He glances at the soldiers, eyes wide, then hurries on. The men watch him disappear. The first sepoy whispers, if the people rise, what shall we do? No one answers. But in their silence, something has already shifted. Back in the village, the young man stands beneath the neem tree. Others gather around him. The woman whose rice was taken, the priest with trembling voice, farmers, mothers, even children who hover close, listening. He speaks. The company takes everything from us. Grain, land, dignity. But they cannot take our will. They cannot take the river, or the soil beneath our feet. An old man asks, what can we do against muskets? The young man raises his chin. We stand together. We speak as one. Even the sepoys waver. They too are our people. They have families starving just like ours. The woman steps forward. We will keep planting rice. We will hide it better. We will not bow. A murmur rises around the circle. But across the fields, dust lifts along the horizon. The company comes again. The official rides into the village, uniform even brighter than before. His eyes flash with cold anger. Behind him march more sepoys than ever, muskets glinting, bayonets fixed. He shouts, "You have refused to plant indigo. You have hidden grain. You are rebels." The villagers remain silent. The young man steps forward. "We are farmers. We will not starve for your profit." The official sep's lips curl. "Then you will suffer the consequences." He gestures sharply. The soldiers fan out, searching huts, tearing apart mats, digging into the earth. Grain spills from secret caches. Clay pots break. Women cry out as soldiers shove them aside. Yet one soldier pauses, his hands trembling as he lifts a basket of rice. He looks at the young man, then at the officer, and lowers his eyes. He sets the basket down gently, instead of throwing it. The officer spins on him, shouting, "Obey your orders." But the soldier remains still. In that moment, the villagers see the crack in the company's wall, a thin line where loyalty and fear no longer hold true. The young man locks eyes with the sepoy. "You know this is wrong." The officer raises his riding crop, striking the sepoy across the face. Blood wells on the soldier sep's cheek, but he does not lift his weapon. He only whispers, "I am sorry, brother." The official snarls, "Arrest them all. Let this village serve as an example." But as soldiers move forward, hesitation spreads among them. Some lift their muskets half-heartedly. Some glance at the villagers, then at each other. The air grows hot, thick, trembling, as if the earth itself waits to exhale. Then, from somewhere beyond the trees, a shout rises. No more. It echoes off palm trunks, startling birds into flight. A second voice calls, "We are done being slaves." Villagers pour from hidden paths, brandishing sticks, sickles, stones. Not soldiers, not yet an army, but many. Their voices merge into a single roar. The official shouts orders, but fewer soldiers obey. One sepoy turns and clubs a company officer with the butt of his musket. Another throws his weapon aside and runs. A third stands frozen, shaking, eyes wide. Chaos explodes. Dust clouds rise. Cries ring out in every direction. The villagers push forward, surging as one body. A musket fires. A red coat collapses to the ground. The young man grabs the official sep's arm. "Leave us." The official struggles free and stumbles backward. His horse rears, nostrils flaring. In a panic, the officer swings himself onto the saddle and gallops away, leaving his men scattered. Slowly, silence returns. The villagers stand, panting, faces streaked with sweat and dust. Some carry blood on their arms. Others hold trembling hands. The young man breathes hard, staring at the road where the officer disappeared. The woman steps to his side. "They will come back." He nods. "Let them. Now we know we can stand." That night, the village glows with small fires. People speak in low voices, not of fear but of plans. They know the company will return, with more soldiers, with harsher orders. But now there is something the company cannot calculate in a ledger: hope. And the river keeps flowing, silver under the stars, carrying with it secrets and grief and courage waiting to be born. Morning arrives in silence. A pale breeze stirs the leaves overhead. The river glides past the village as smooth as silk, carrying specks of pollen, bits of twig, the soft swirl of silt stirred up from the bottom. Birds call once or twice, then fall quiet again. It's as if the world itself is pausing to listen for what comes next, because the company will return. Everyone knows it. In the village, people move with a new kind of purpose. A woman kneels in her courtyard, grinding rice to flour. Beside her, a child plays with pebbles, arranging them into patterns that resemble fields, soldiers, rivers. Each tiny stone falls into place, like a secret plan. Men repair roofs, and strengthen fences. Old sickles are sharpened until their edges glint like new. At the well, women speak in hushed tones, sharing news from other villages. They say in the north, sepoys refuse to carry company guns. They say a town in the east drove the officers away. They say the gods are listening. The priest stands outside the temple door, murmuring prayers. Between sacred verses, he slips in new words. The land belongs to those who plant it. The grain belongs to those who harvest it. The words take root, carried on breath and memory, whispered from ear to ear. Far away, in the white town of Calcutta, the company's officers hold endless meetings. Candles burn low, dripping wax onto maps spread wide over long tables. Faces glow pale in the wavering light. One officer leans forward, voice tight. Reports are multiplying. Villages are resisting taxation. Sepoys are hesitating to enforce orders. Another officer snaps back, then send more troops. A third officer, older and gaunt, shakes his head. Troops cannot plant indigo. Troops cannot keep famine away. The people are starving, and we have driven them to desperation. Silence falls like a stone in water. One by one, the officers drop their eyes, pretending to study maps whose rivers wind like questions across the parchment. Back in the village, the young man sits under the neem tree. His cousin stands nearby, arms crossed, eyes scanning the lanes for company soldiers. The young man speaks softly. I have heard that in other places, the sepoys are speaking our language. They remember they are sons of this soil. The cousin nods, and some say they will rise when we rise. The young man breathes deeply, looking out over the rice fields. Each green blade catches the sun like a promise. We must speak to them. We must remind them who they are. Elsewhere in the village, an old woman tends a tiny patch of marigolds. Her fingers gently brush petals as bright as the sun. She murmurs, I have seen many rulers, none stay forever. The company will leave too one day. In the distance, a line of dust rises along the road. The company is coming again. Hoofbeats drum the earth. The red coats of the soldiers blaze like blood under the sun. The official rides at their head, lips tight, eyes cold. His voice cracks like a whip as he shouts orders. The villagers gather once more in the center of the village. Some clutch tools, others stand empty-handed, but refuse to step back. The official dismounts. You will bow to the company sep's law. No one moves. The young man steps forward. We bow only to our gods, not to your hunger. The official sneers. Then your village will burn. He raises his hand. Soldiers start forward, but many of them move slowly, eyes flickering with doubt. The official roars, obey me, but the soldiers hesitate. The young man lifts his voice, brothers, your mothers are starving too. Your families suffer the same as ours. The company uses you to steal from your own people. A hush follows his words. One sepoy lowers his musket. Another looks away. A third shouts, he speaks truth. The official spins toward him. Silence. But the sepoy keeps speaking. Why should we kill our own people for British coin? My sister died last month because there was no rice, and still they demanded taxes. The official lunges at him, grabbing the front of his tunic. But other sepoys step between them, pulling the officer back. Voices rise in a tangled knot of languages: Hindi, Bengali, Urdu, English, all colliding in the hot air. Suddenly, one sepoy raises his musket and fires it into the air. The shot cracks like thunder. Villagers flinch. Birds explode from the trees, but no one falls dead. The sepoy turns to the villagers. Go. Run to the forest. Hide. We will delay them. The officer shouts orders, but the sepoys scatter. Some vanish into the trees themselves. Some throw their muskets down into the dust. The villagers do not run in panic. Instead, they move in quiet groups, carrying children, leading the old and sick. The young man and his cousin help guide them into the hidden paths between rice paddies. The official stands in the center of the road, chest heaving, face mottled red. "You will pay for this. You will all hang." But his words drift away into empty air. By evening, the village lies silent and empty. Huts stand open, pots overturned, cooking fires cold. Palm fronds sway gently in the gathering dusk. Deep in the forest, the villagers gather. The priest raises his voice. "We will return. This is our land. The company will not stay forever." The young man lifts a handful of soil, letting it trickle through his fingers. "One day we will come home and plant rice in peace." A woman whispers, "And tell our children how we stood together." Above them, the stars flicker into life. Each pinprick of light seems brighter than before, as if the sky itself is watching. Far away, in Calcutta, the officers pace marble floors. Unable to sleep, reports pile higher. Words like insurrection appear in trembling ink. Letters rush to London faster than ever before, and the river keeps flowing, carrying the hush of hidden footsteps, the scent of marigolds, and the knowledge that freedom is a tide no empire can hold back forever. Because the people have learned that when voices join, even silence becomes power, and that the company's ledgers cannot measure courage. The night hangs heavy over Bengal. Crickets sing beneath the palms. Fireflies blink among tangled branches like tiny green stars. The river murmurs to itself, winding past darkened fields. Now and then, a breeze sighs through the grass, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke and damp earth. Hidden among the trees, the villagers lie awake. They do not sleep easily tonight. The ground beneath them feels alive, humming with new possibilities and new dangers. Babies whimper softly in their mother's arms. Older children clutch each other, wide-eyed, straining to hear every sound beyond the clearing. The young man sits by a small fire, his cousin beside him. Sparks drift upward into the night, like fleeting prayers. The cousin whispers, "Do you think they will burn the village?" The young man does not answer right away. He stares into the flames, watching them twist and snap. Finally, he says, "Maybe." But the village is not only huts and walls, it is us. As long as we live, it lives. A little further off, the priest murmurs words that blend prayer and prophecy. He speaks of rivers washing away oppressors, of gods rising from earth in flame, of freedom carried on the breath of ancestors. Each word circles the gathered people like a soft chant, keeping fear at bay. At dawn, the birds begin to call again. Villagers stir, stretching stiff limbs. Some rise to collect fallen branches for firewood. Others whisper with cautious hope, "Did you hear?" Another village turned back the company's seps men. Sepoys are leaving their posts in many places. The news arrives as scattered fragments, carried by traders, wandering monks, even fishermen who drift from village to village. Each story grows like a spark catching dry grass. Somewhere in the east, a village refused to surrender its hidden rice. Company officers arrived with soldiers, but the soldiers laid down their guns rather than fire on the people. In the north, workers in an indigo factory walked out together, refusing to grind the leaves. They said, "We will not turn our soil to blue poison anymore." Each act of defiance sends ripples outward. In Calcutta, the tension thickens like a rope drawn tighter and tighter. Inside the company's SEP's headquarters, officers speak in clipped voices. Clerks race between rooms, carrying stacks of papers stamped with urgent seals. One young officer reads a fresh report and stares, pale-faced, at the words Entire districts refusing tribute. Rumors of coordinated revolt. His superior snatches the paper, scanning it quickly. He snaps. Increase patrols. Double the taxes. Show them we are still in command. But his voice trembles around the edges, betraying the doubt underneath. Meanwhile, in the hidden forest clearing, the villagers meet again. The young man stands, his voice steady despite exhaustion. The company believes fear is stronger than hunger. But they are wrong. Fear cannot fill an empty stomach. A woman steps forward, cloth wrapped tight around her shoulders. We can stay in the forest for a time, but we must go back. This is our land. The young man nods. Yes. But we must be ready. We will not go back alone. Others are rising. We are not the only ones. A small boy, thin as a bamboo shoot, speaks from the crowd. What if the soldiers come again with bigger guns? The young man crouches beside him. Then we remember the river. It flows around stones. It finds another path. We will do the same. That night, messengers leave the forest under cover of darkness, barefoot, carrying only memories and quiet words. They slip from village to village, spreading news that once seemed impossible. The company can be resisted. They whisper lists of villages where sepoys refused orders, names of elders who stand firm, places where hidden rice grows green under palm leaves. In the white city of Calcutta, British officers toss and turn in their beds. Their dreams are troubled by visions of villages in flames, crops burned, ledgers stained red. Some dream of empty ships rocking at anchor, sails slack in windless air, because they know that money cannot buy silence forever. And still the river glides onward. It slips past reeds and crumbling banks, past huts hidden in the shadows, past broad fields where rice trembles gently, refusing to be replaced by indigo. One dawn, the young man wakes early and climbs a low rise where he can see the fields. Mist floats like pale silk over the ground. He breathes in the scent of wet grass, feeling the cool wind brush his skin. His cousin joins him. I dreamt last night that the company was gone. No more soldiers. No more ledgers. The young man smiles faintly. Someday, perhaps not for us, but for our children. From far away, the faint clang of a temple bell reaches their ears. The cousin listens, head tilted. A sign? The young man nods. A sign that we are still here. Behind them, the villagers begin to emerge from the trees. Faces tired but resolute. Children cling to mothers. Old men lean on staffs, but there is a glimmer in every eye. They know now. The company SEP's walls are built from fear, and fear has begun to crack. And as the river flows past them, it carries not only silt and driftwood, but the slow certainty that no empire stands forever, because the people have learned that the land remembers, and the land will wait. Morning spills over Bengal like molten gold. It glints on the river's surface, catches the dewdrops clinging to rice leaves, slides across the curved clay roofs of hidden huts. The air hums with insects. Birdsong rises in cautious flutters, as if nature itself listens for footfalls on distant roads. The villagers emerge from the forest cautiously. They move like shadows, slipping between trees, pausing often to listen. Children clutch their mother's hands. The old priest carries the sacred bell in both palms, wrapped carefully in cloth, so it will not chime and betray their path. The young man leads them back to the village. His cousin walks beside him, shoulders tight with tension. The young man murmurs, "If they's burned it, we will rebuild." His cousin nods. "We must try. We cannot hide forever." As they crest a small rise, they look down upon the village and stop. The huts stand where they left them, roofs still whole. Palm trees sway gently over courtyards. Birds hop across the dusty lanes, but there sets no smoke from cooking fires, no voices, no laughter. It is a village holding its breath. They move forward slowly. Step by step, women clutch children tighter. Men grip wooden staffs and rusted blades. Then a voice calls out, "Is that you, Arjun?" A man steps from the shadows between two huts. His hair is gray, his clothes dusty, but his eyes shine with relief. Behind him, others appear, faces drawn, eyes red from sleepless nights, but alive. The village is not empty. It has endured. They gather in the center. People touch each other, sip shoulders, as if to be sure they set your real. Tears come quietly. The young man speaks. "We feared the company returned." The older man shakes his head. They came, but they found no one, no tribute, no crops. They threatened fire, but who would they punish if no one was left? A ripple of soft laughter passes through the villagers, a laugh tinged with exhaustion but also triumph. A woman speaks. The sahibs shouted into empty lanes. Then they rode away. Children run forward now, chasing each other around the circle. Their giggles float upward into the pale blue sky. The priest steps to the center, lifting his wrapped bell. He unwraps it and lets it ring once, a single clear note that dances over the rooftops. "We return," he says, and so our village returns with us. They begin rebuilding. Women sweep dirt from the floors. Men set fallen fence posts upright. Someone starts a small fire, feeding it twigs, until the first wisp of fragrant smoke spirals into the sky. Yet beneath the relief lies a simmering tension, because word spreads quickly that the company is not retreating. Reports arrive like drifting seeds. They gather more soldiers. In Calcutta, they speak of crushing rebellion. The sahibs say India will stay under the company sep's thumb forever. The young man listens to these whispers. As he repairs the roof of his hut, his cousin climbs beside him, tying fresh bundles of thatch into place. The cousin mutters, "They will come again, stronger, with more men." The young man's set's jaw tightens. "Then so will we." Beyond the village, messengers continue to run through the forests. They carry news from places as far as Lucknow, Jhansi, Delhi. Stories emerge. Sepoys refusing to bite cartridges coated with animal fat, forbidden by their faith. Officers shot in sudden uprisings. Redcoats fleeing through narrow streets. In hidden groves, new leaders begin to speak louder. Meetings grow larger. Plans move from whispers to spoken vows. One evening, a stranger arrives in the village. He wears a faded turban and carries nothing but a rolled-up cloth. He asks for the young man. The villagers watch him warily as he sits cross-legged in the dust. He speaks. In the north, entire regiments have turned their guns against the company. Forts have fallen. Towns rise in flames. This is bigger than one village. The young man leans forward. And what happens after? The stranger smiles faintly. Then we must decide how to live free. Freedom does not feed the hungry by itself, but freedom is where we must start. In Calcutta, officers meet under bright chandeliers, but fear gnaws the edges of every conversation. One man says, "We can shoot them down. We have cannons." Another shakes his head. "Cannons cannot silence 10 million people." Letters sail westward across the seas, bound for London. Each one is heavy with urgent ink. The natives revolt. We risk losing the entire country. Yet in London, merchants and shareholders argue, India cannot be lost. Our fortunes are tied to that soil. But even across oceans, an invisible wind has begun to blow. In the village, the young man calls a meeting beneath the neem tree. Torches burn low, casting trembling shadows on the trunks. He stands tall. They will call us rebels. But we are only men and women protecting our families. The villagers listen, faces flickering gold and black in the torchlight. He continues, "We may not win quickly. Some of us may fall, but they cannot rule over a people who refuse to kneel." An old woman murmurs, "The company forgets. We are the land, and the land does not die." The priest lifts his bell again. He rings it 3 times, letting each note echo longer than the last. Far away, in Calcutta, company soldiers sharpen bayonets under flickering lanterns. Officers ride between forts, voices tight, orders sharp as blades. But the villagers move with quiet purpose. They pack supplies. They store water in clay pots. They carve symbols into tree trunks to mark secret paths. Because they know now, the company's power lies in fear. And fear is cracking like ice under sunlight. And the river keeps flowing, silver and soft, winding through Bengal's fields. It carries songs of grief and hope, of loss and of tomorrow. Because the people have learned that freedom is a thing whispered first in secret, and then shouted loud enough to shake empires. Dawn arrives with streaks of pink across the eastern sky. The first breeze carries the scent of river water, cool and alive. Palm trees rustle softly overhead. Somewhere, a parrot screeches, green wings flashing as it darts between branches. In the village, people wake slowly, rubbing sleep from weary eyes. The night has been restless, filled with dreams of soldiers, flames and voices calling for freedom. The young man stands outside his hut, watching the sun climb. His cousin joins him, yawning, rubbing grit from his eyes. The cousin murmurs, "Do you remember when all we cared about was planting the next crop?" The young man nods. Now every day feels like a war, even when it sets silent. Nearby, women kneel in the dust, pounding rice into flour. Each thud of the wooden pestle sounds like a heartbeat. Children help, gathering fallen grains, pressing them into tiny clay bowls. Though the village looks peaceful, tension lies just beneath the surface. Word has come that company soldiers move closer, not just to collect taxes, but to put down rebellion wherever they find it. In Calcutta, the British officers pace long halls. Chandeliers sway overhead. Oil lamps sputter as servants trim wicks. The officers' soft voices overlap. Mutinies are breaking out in more regiments. "We need reinforcements from England. If the sepoys join the people, we could lose the entire country." A young officer, pale and sweating, whispers, "They know our weaknesses now. They know we can bleed." But across Bengal, villagers whisper different words, words older than the company, words that rise from the dust and the river and the memory of ancestors. In the village, the old priest stands before the deity Sep's shrine. He raises his hands. This land was never the company Sep's. It was ours before they came, and it will be ours when they leave. The people murmur agreement. Even children nod solemnly. That afternoon, dust appears on the road. The company returns. Hoof beats thud like war drums. Red-coated soldiers ride at the head of the column, led by the same officer whose face now looks gaunter, his eyes ringed with sleeplessness. Behind him, more sepoys than ever before, bayonets gleaming in the sun. The village falls silent as the soldiers arrive. The officer swings down from his horse, boots sinking into the dust. His voice is brittle as glass. "I will speak plainly. You have refused to pay taxes. You have hidden grain. You speak treason." He scans the villagers' set faces, eyes hard. "You will surrender the ringleaders now, or we will burn this place to ash." The young man steps forward. "There are no ringleaders. We all stand together." The officer sits, lips curl in disgust. Then you will all suffer the same fate. He raises his arm. Soldiers start forward, but the villagers do not retreat. The young man calls out, voice ringing clear, "Brothers, you wear company coats, but your mothers live in villages like this. Your children cry from hunger. Will you kill us for the sahibs who steal your rice too?" The sepoys hesitate. Muskets lower slightly. A murmur ripples through their ranks. The officer barks, "Stand firm. Fire, if ordered." But one sepoy steps out of line, voice trembling. "My sister died during the famine. My father lost his land. I will not shoot my own people." The officer strikes him across the face. The sepoy staggers but does not lift his weapon. Another sepoy joins him. "I have carried the company's SIP's gun for 10 years, but no more." He tosses his musket into the dust. A third sepoy raises his voice. "We are Indians before we are soldiers." The officer spins, screaming orders, but confusion spreads like spilled ink. Some soldiers back away. Others freeze. One kneels to help a child who has fallen. The officer shouts, "You will hang for this. You will all hang." But the villagers stand firm, shoulder to shoulder. A woman calls out, "If you must hang us, start here. I have nothing left to lose." Another voice rises, "We are not afraid." The officer's horse rears and bolts, nearly unseating him. He yanks the reins, fighting to regain control. Dust swirls around him like smoke. Suddenly, from the trees, more villagers emerge. Men carrying sickles, women with wooden clubs, children throwing stones. They flood into the lane, surrounding the soldiers. For a moment, time seems to stop. The officer looks into the faces of hundreds of villagers. He sees not fear, but determination. He sees sepoys lowering their weapons. He sees the river glinting behind them, as patient and unstoppable as time. Then he turns his horse and flees, galloping back toward Calcutta. The soldiers scatter. Some follow, others stay, throwing down their weapons, bending to touch the ground in respect to the villagers. When the dust settles, the young man stands breathing hard. His cousin grips his arm. "It's SIP's begun," the cousin whispers. The young man nods. "And it will not stop until we are free." That night, the village is alive with quiet joy and fierce resolve. Small fires burn as women prepare rice. Men speak in low voices, planning how to spread the word further. The priest lifts his bell and lets it ring over the rooftops. He proclaims, "Tonight we have won a battle. Tomorrow, we fight for the whole land." And though they know the company will return with greater force, the villagers feel something they have not felt in many years: hope. In Calcutta, officers pace corridors lined with maps and oil portraits. One slams his fist on a table. They are no longer afraid. "If we lose their fear, we lose everything." Another officer mutters, "India is slipping from our fingers." Outside, the river moves steadily, carrying moonlight on its ripples. It glides past fort walls, past anchored ships, past villages where drums begin to beat in secret, summoning people to gather. Because the people have learned that even the mightiest empire is only a house of paper, if those who built it refuse to keep it standing. And the river keeps flowing, shining like silver beneath the stars. Dawn lifts over Bengal in silent splendor. Light ripples across the river, turning its surface to molten gold. Palm leaves sway under the faint breath of a breeze. Somewhere, a coal sings its three-note call, filling the air with echoes of old songs. But beneath the beauty, the land quivers with tension. The young man stands in the lane of his village, staring at the road that leads to Calcutta. His cousin stands beside him, gripping a wooden staff so hard that his knuckles glow pale. The cousin whispers, "Do you think the Sahibs will come back?" The young man answers, "Yes, but they will find us waiting." Throughout the village, people move with quiet urgency. Women grind grain, pouring it into clay jars to hide beneath floorboards. Men dig shallow trenches beyond the rice fields, preparing places to stand if soldiers return. Even children help, carrying bundles of sticks for fires, fetching water from the river. No one speaks of fear anymore. There is only readiness. In Calcutta, the company reels. Officers pace marble floors under ceilings, painted with scenes of British ships riding triumphant seas. Letters fly back and forth across tables, scribbled in urgent ink. One officer reads aloud, "Fort after fort is under siege. Sepoys refuse orders. Civilians rise. We must bring in forces from Britain, or we will lose everything." Another officer slams his hand on the table. "We told London it was secure. We promised dividends. Now what do we tell them?" A third, older officer mutters, "Tell them the truth. That we tried to rule an empire with ledgers and muskets, and forgot the people." Silence hangs heavy in the chamber. Outside, the city vibrates with rumor. Servants whisper in corridors. Merchants keep watch for signs that the markets might collapse. British families begin quietly packing trunks, unsure if tomorrow's sunrise will find them still safe in Calcutta. But in the village, a different feeling rises. A messenger arrives, breathless and covered in dust. He calls out to the young man, "From the north, revolt grows. Forts are falling. British officers are fleeing." The people march together. The villagers gather beneath the neem tree, hearts pounding. The young man speaks, "This is the time we waited for. The time we thought would never come. We must send help. We must join them." An old man lifts his voice, "But they have cannons, ships, guns." The young man answers, "We have more. We have hunger. We have the memory of children who died in famine. We have the land itself." A murmur spreads through the crowd, low and determined. That night, the villagers sit beneath the stars. Fires glow like scattered rubies. Sparks drift into the sky, carried upward by warm currents. The old priest stands among them, his bell shining in the firelight. He raises it and rings it 3 times. Let the company hear the sound. Let them know we remember who we are. In distant places, the rebellion surges. Sepoys seize British forts. Couriers race through forests, bearing letters sealed with new leaders' names. Across provinces, people overturn symbols of the company's rule. Ledgers burn, flags fall, but the company does not surrender easily. From ships anchored off the coast, soldiers disembark. Cannons roll down dusty roads. New orders arrive in Calcutta. Crush the rebellion at any cost. In the village, word comes of massacres, fires consuming towns, retaliation swift and merciless. Women weep quietly as they grind grain. Men speak in tighter voices, yet no one speaks of giving up. The young man stands before them, voice ragged but clear. They burn villages, but they cannot burn the river. They kill men, but they cannot kill the wind. We will endure. At dawn, soldiers appear once more on the road. Their boots pound the dust. Horses snort and toss their heads. Officers ride at the front, eyes sharp, faces set. The young man walks to meet them. His cousin steps beside him. Other villagers fall into line behind them, carrying tools, sticks, and nothing more than courage. The officer reins in his horse and glares down. "I am sent by the company to restore order. You will kneel or you will die." The young man lifts his head. "We kneel to no one but our gods." A hush falls so deep that even the breeze holds its breath. The officer shouts, "Arrest him. Sepoys move forward, but they come slowly. Some look away, some tighten their grips on muskets, but do not raise them. The young man speaks, voice low but carrying across the silence. Brothers, remember your mothers who starved. Remember your sisters who wept. The company calls you soldiers, but you are sons of this soil. One sepoy stops short. His eyes glisten. Another sepoy raises his musket halfway, then lowers it again. The officer screams, "Obey me." But the line of sepoys fractures. Some step back. One throws his musket into the dust. Another kneels and places his forehead to the earth. The officer wheels his horse, fury twisting his face. "Traitors, you will hang." He draws his pistol, but a sepoy grabs his arm, wrenching it away. The pistol clatters to the ground. The villagers surge forward. A shout rises, not of fear, but of triumph. Sticks and stones clash against red coats. Soldiers scatter. Some flee, some surrender. The officer disappears into the chaos. When quiet returns, the villagers stand together in the dust. The young man breathes hard. His cousin grips his shoulder. "This is how it begins." The cousin whispers. The young man answers, "And how it ends with the land returned to those who belong to it." That night, fires burn across the village, not in destruction, but in signal. Flames flicker skyward, sending messages to distant villages. "We have risen. Join us." In Calcutta, officers sit in rooms grown dark and hot. Maps lie strewn across the floor. One voice murmurs, "The company is finished." But outside those walls, Bengal breathes a new air. The river glides past forts and markets and palm trees. It carries the memory of famine and sorrow, but also of rebellion and hope. Because the people have learned that freedom is not given by kings or companies. It is taken, inch by inch, by those who refuse to surrender. And the river keeps flowing, whispering that no empire stands forever. Dawn breaks like gold spilling over silk. The sky glows pink and orange, reflected in the slow curves of the river. Small ripples catch the light, flickering like fish scales. Birds begin their morning chorus, cautious at first, then bold as sunlight spreads across the fields. But beneath the song of birds lies the low hum of something greater. A country shifting under invisible tides. The village stands quiet but different, no longer just a cluster of huts, huddled against fear. It feels like the beating heart of something larger. People move with purpose. Children help gather water. Women pack bundles of rice and cloth, ready for those who will travel to spread the word further. The young man sits beneath the neem tree, eyes closed, listening to the rustle of leaves. His cousin joins him, dropping to the ground with a sigh. The cousin mutters, "So many villages have risen. But what happens if the company comes back with ships and cannons?" The young man opens his eyes. "Then we stand again and again, because we finally know we can." A gentle breeze shifts through the tree branches, carrying faint murmurs of conversation. Near the temple, the old priest speaks to a circle of villagers. He says, "Freedom will not feed us by itself. But without freedom, we will never eat enough." A woman nods, eyes dark with memory. "My brother died in the famine. I refuse to see my children bow to the same men who took our grain." Another man adds, "If we push them out, we must decide how we live afterward." A hush falls as this truth sinks in, because it's one thing to fight the company. It's another to imagine what comes after. In Calcutta, officers gather in dim rooms, lamps flickering low. One man slams his fist on the table. "They Setra not only fighting us, they Setra talking about ruling themselves." Another officer, older and gray-haired, rubs his temples. "We thought we could rule forever, with taxes and trade. We forgot these people have memories longer than our empire." Outside, carriages rattle down streets, once crowded with European ladies in silk gowns and gentlemen in top hats. Now those same families huddle indoors, afraid of the streets they used to claim. Ships lie anchored in the harbor, sails limp. Crewmen whisper of revolt, even in distant ports. Back in the village, the young man stands to address the crowd. We have learned how to stand. Now we must learn how to speak for ourselves. We must choose leaders who remember the taste of hunger. An old man raises his voice. No more taxes we cannot pay. No more soldiers dragging away our children. The priest murmurs, no more fields turn to indigo while our bellies go empty. Children listen with wide eyes. Though they don't fully understand, they know they are hearing something new. Something meant for them as much as for their parents. Later that day, a traveler arrives, dusty and breathless. He carries news. In Delhi, sepoys and townsfolk fight side by side. The company fort is under siege. Officers have fled the city. A cheer goes up. Villagers clasp each other's shoulders, eyes shining, but the young man lifts a hand, quieting them. Victory will not be easy. They will send ships, soldiers, more guns. We must be patient and united. A woman says, we cannot forget the famine, or the taxes, or the children who starved while they built their forts. Another man murmurs, let this be the last famine we suffer under foreigners. The young man gazes around him. In every face he sees weariness, but also iron. He says softly, when the company is gone, we must guard each other. No new rulers must steal from us again. That night, under a sky thick with stars, the villagers gather near the river. The water glows pale, moonlight painting silver paths across its surface. The old priest lifts his bell. This bell has rung for many kings, for nawabs, for sultans, and now for the company. But tonight, I ring it for us. He lets the bell chime once, a sound pure and sharp as crystal. People stand silent, the note hanging in the air. In distant forts, British officers lie awake. They listen to drums beating far off. They hear rumors of sepoys melting away into the night, of villages refusing to pay tribute, of an empire that suddenly feels paper thin. Ships rock gently in the harbor, sails furled, crewmen whispering that India might be slipping away, because for the first time the company knows its greatest weapon, fear, has begun to fail. And the river keeps flowing, gliding past forts and rice fields and hidden paths. It carries secrets and new prayers and the first taste of freedom, because the people have learned that their voices can shake palaces, and that once the land awakens, no empire can command it back to sleep. A pale mist curls over the fields as dawn breaks. The sun rises, slow and heavy, turning the river into a ribbon of molten light. Birds flutter from tree to tree, carrying scraps of song. But in the hush beneath the trees, the villagers gather one final time. The young man stands before them, eyes rimmed with exhaustion yet bright with something stronger than sleep. He says, the company will not surrender easily. They will try to divide us, to tell us we are many peoples, many faiths, but the land knows we are one. His cousin nods beside him. They tried to starve us, to turn our fields to indigo, but we lived. A woman lifts her voice. They took our grain, our sons, but they cannot take our river, our gods, our memory. An old man murmurs, it is time. And across the river valleys of Bengal, it is time. In Delhi, sepoys storm fort walls. British officers flee through narrow streets. Drums echo through stone archways. Crowds fill bazaars, voices rising together in chants of freedom. Flames flicker high over palace domes as symbols of company power fall. In Jhansi, A queen dons armor, leading her troops on horseback, sword flashing in the sun. Her voice cuts through the dust. We fight not only for thrones, but for the right to rule our own land. In Lucknow, men dig trenches beneath the walls of great British buildings. Women carry water and food to fighters. Children stand watch on rooftops, eyes sharp for red coats on the horizon. And in the village word arrives of these battles. Messengers come breathless, dusty, eyes blazing. They say, Delhi fights, Lucknow fights, Jhansi stands strong. But they also whisper, the British send more ships, more soldiers, more guns. Fear flickers in the villagers' sept eyes. But the young man raises his voice. We cannot unsee what we have seen. We cannot unspeak what we have spoken. An old priest lifts his bell, ringing it softly. Freedom does not vanish. Because an army comes, it waits in the soil. It flows in the river. The Company Esta's retaliation comes swift and brutal. In villages across Bengal, soldiers sweep in, muskets cracking, flames leaping from thatched roofs. Rivers run muddied with ashes. Men are hauled away in chains. Women clutch children and flee into forests. In Calcutta, officers issue orders thick with fear. Crush them, burn villages, execute rebels. But even as forts are retaken, the company sees something it has never seen before. Sepoys standing aside rather than fire. Entire towns refusing to pay taxes. Merchants closing shops rather than sell grain to British troops. And villagers who simply vanish into the jungle, carrying rice seeds in their fists. In the village, the young man and his people hide again beneath the neem trees. Smoke rises on the horizon, distant yet near enough to taint the wind with the bitter smell of burning. The young man kneels, pressing a hand to the earth. They burn the huts, but they cannot burn the land. His cousin crouches beside him. What if they come for us again? The young man lifts his head. Then we stand again. And if we fall, others will stand. A hush falls over the people gathered there. Children lean into mother's arms. Old men sit silent, remembering lifetimes of rulers come and gone. And into that hush, the old priest speaks. Empires fall, but rivers run on. The company may win this year or next, but they will not stay forever. Time moves forward. Fires burn, are doused, burn again. Battles rage across cities. Forts change hands more than once. Ledgers lie in charred heaps, where once they ruled the land. In London, men in dark suits argue in smoky rooms. The rebellion is costly. The company cannot manage India alone anymore. And so, in time, the British Crown claims India as its own. The company, once mighty as a kingdom, dissolves into memory and dusty files. But the land remembers, and the people remember. Years later, in the same village, a new dawn rises. Children splash in the river. Women walk with clay pots balanced high on their heads. Birds chatter in the palm fronds overhead. The young man, older now, stands beneath the neem tree. His cousin, hair streaked with gray, laughs softly beside him. The cousin murmurs, "Do you remember the day we sent the soldiers away?" The young man nods. "I remember the dust in the air, the fear, and the taste of freedom." Nearby, a woman sits weaving a basket, singing a lullaby to her baby. An old man tends rice seedlings, knees planted deep in mud. Children gather around the young man, eager for stories. A boy asks, "Did the company really try to take all the rice?" The young man smiles. "Yes, but the river taught us we were stronger." A little girl asks, "Did we win?" He pauses, looking out over the fields. Birds dip and rise over green rice shoots. The river glints beneath the sun. Not all at once, and not everywhere. But we learned how to stand, and we learned that no ruler stays forever. The priest, ancient now, lifts his bell once more. This bell has rung for kings, for sultans, for sahibs, and now it rings for all of us. At dusk, the villagers gather one more time under the neem tree. The young man stands in the soft glow of lanterns, speaking to a crowd both familiar and new. He says, "The company is gone. But freedom is more than the absence of masters. Freedom is in every grain of rice we plant, in every child we teach not to bow, in every river that runs clean and true." A woman nods, voice clear. We must remember the hunger and the courage, and keep them both close. The cousin adds, "And teach our children that silence can be broken." As the lanterns sway gently, fireflies rise like tiny green stars, and far away, the river flows onward, weaving between banks green with rice. It carries the dust of empires, the salt of tears, the laughter of children, and the memory of a people who once learned to stand, because the people have learned that freedom is not a gift from kings or companies. It is the right to plant, to speak, to live without fear. And the river keeps flowing, carrying the songs of those who remember.